Welcome back to Real Talk with Delphine. Today I have the honor to speaking with new CEO of DMEA and Elevate. So stay tuned for some new changes coming up in DMEA and also how to give back to your community through your electric bill. Welcome back to Real Talk with Delphine. Today I'm really excited to and have the honor to interview Jack Johnson, the new CEO of DMEA and Elevate. Hi Jack, how are you?
Good, thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you today. It's been, what, 7 months now?
Just over 7 months, yes.
Yes, so I'm sure it's been a lot of learning curve and a lot of experience, but I'd love to know a little bit more about you and why did you guys pick Montrose, and tell me a little bit more about you and your family.
Sure. Well, I picked Montrose because of DMEA, obviously, and have been over here a number of times to the Western Slope. We're transitioning from the Eastern Slope. Certainly the most beautiful part of Colorado, and very attractive to a number of tourists as well as those who live over here. But you know, in terms of my family, we're excited to be associated and connected now to the Western Slope. We do. My wife and I, Bernice, have 3 boys, and 2 of them are adults already and have already a career path and doing very well, which is what you want as a parent. You want your kids to be happy and self-sufficient, and which they are. And then we have our youngest is just starting his senior year of high school. So we will soon be empty nesters, and what better place to be empty nesters than on the Western Slope of Colorado.
Or terrifying as a parent. I'm not quite ready for that.
I didn't say I was ready for it, but that's the inevitability of parenthood, yes.
That's right. So about 7 months in, what is your favorite thing about Montrose so far?
You know, obviously the landscape out here is just so much more beautiful than, not that all landscape isn't beautiful or natural landscape, but you know, just the ability to look around and see a river valley, which I'm moving from, to come to see another river valley, but also with the, you know, mountains as the backdrop and the mesa out to the west. It's just such a varying viewpoint that every day I'm just amazed when I drive around and just so happy to be a part of that.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel like when you look out your window here and we see the San Juans, it's just so majestic. I love it. Fantastic. And then on the other side, what would be your biggest surprise when you moved here? Something you did not expect?
You know, that's the toughest one. Having been out here before on both business and pleasure, you know, I certainly had some general expectations that I knew would be fulfilled. I would say that my biggest surprise has been on the professional side. Joining a team that just really has impressed me in this first half of the year, of just their commitment and their passion towards our mission, and just the skill sets and the knowledge that they have, their backgrounds, their diversity. That's, you know, not something that maybe I should have expected, but not that I did, and it's just far exceeded, I guess, what I would have hoped for, or my expectations in our whole team, our board of directors, and just the community as a whole. It's just something that, you know, it should be proud of. It's really well reflected with some great individuals.
Fantastic. And I think that's important because even in your role, there is just so much you can do. And if you don't have the right people and the right team, you can't make it happen either.
That's right.
And so talking about the team, I know that there's a few changes coming up. You have a new position. It's hot off the press. Nobody knows. You have a new position at DMEA, and someone very special is taking over is it CEE position? Or tell me more.
I will tell you about that. So we just today, I've made it official that we have a new Chief Engineering and Energy Resources Officer. And in a good engineering fashion or spirit, the individual whose name is Matos Pena, he has already broken it down to CE squared RO.
Such an engineering thing to do.
Absolutely, and proud that he did it, and I think that's great. But he also coined it as, if you pronounce it phonetically, it's cero, which in Spanish is zero, which he thought was funny, and I do too. But far from that, he's been with the organization for just under a decade, and as serving in an engineering capacity, and now his role will expand out to energy resources, which is very important to us in terms of how we get our wholesale power. The whole industry is changing tremendously in terms of how power is generated and how power is transmitted through a variety of mechanisms and infrastructures that are not all owned ubiquitously. It's very much an exchange and partnership type system that is constantly flowing, obviously on a real-time basis, and the demands for that, or the skill sets for a utility like our scale, has only become more and more crucial or vital. So couldn't be more excited for him, couldn't be happier that he's part of our team, and he certainly brings the skill set that we need. And so
that's very exciting. And so staying on the line of changes, I know that you have also a few changes on the board. Can you tell me a little bit more about, I think you have a new member for District 4?
That is correct. So we welcomed Emily Sanchez this year for District 4, and she's really done a great job out of the gate and really maximized her vertical learning curve. We certainly tried to help in any way we can, but she's already brought some great new perspective to the board, and I think assimilated very well with the team. So we're happy to have her on board. We do have currently a position open for District 2, which is around the Olathe area.
And so it's open?
And it's open right now. And in fact, the board is accepting interested candidates up until the end of this month, August 31st. So since I've been in this role, I've had two open seats. And which is always keeping things dynamic and great. But I'm also excited to say that the board has elected new leadership for both our organizations. DMEA, the electric cooperative, welcomes Stacia Cannon as its new board president. And on our Elevate side, the subsidiary, Damon Lockhart has become our board chair over there.
Oh, fantastic. And so what's the process to interview? If I am interested in being on the board, what kind of people are you looking for, and what's the process for us to apply?
So, the directorships are a board governance role, and certainly, I respect that. And so in terms of what the board's looking for, I really wouldn't be able to say exactly, but I know, having served myself on an electric cooperative board previously, is that the attributes that you would want to take and present if you were interviewing would be ones based on the values of the cooperative business, or the cooperative business model, which is very democratically driven. It's member-driven, it's community-driven.
Collaborative.
And then after that, just somebody who's going to spend the time and have the interest to learn about what is a very complex and intricate set of businesses between electricity and broadband, and to be engaged and to bring fresh ideas and openness and open-mindedness. So those are the things that you would want to be able to, I think, bring to an interview.
Value to the board.
And ultimately, the board of directors will interview interested candidates, and they, as a whole, decide who they want to select for an open vacancy.
Fantastic. And something I've learned today, thank you for presenting at Rotary today, is, I knew this, but putting it next to each other really made a lot more sense to me, is that DMEA is a nonprofit and that Elevate is a for-profit. So managing those two together is sometimes very challenging because you have a for-profit and a nonprofit.
Yes, it's definitely a different mindset. when you have both of those coexisting, right? A nonprofit parent company to a for-profit subsidiary. But as I mentioned in the presentation, the core elements of it are the same. So there is the legal entity status and accounting status and otherwise auditing statuses that you have. But the core of both of those is really the same. And it's about an organization starting back in the late 1930s up into today, recognized that there was these have and have not scenarios in the United States. Have and have nots going back into the 30s was electricity. In our current contemporary times, that's the have and have nots are based on broadband and your access to high-speed internet, because that's where the digital divide or the concept digital divide lies. And DMEA did not want its service territory, which are basically the counties of Delta and Montrose, to be on the wrong side of the digital divide. And so that same spirit or mission is what drives both of them, regardless of if you have competition or don't have competition. But yes, on a day-to-day basis, it's a little bit, it can be more challenging, yeah, to switch from one to the other, and in terms of mindsets.
When talking about must-haves and not-haves, I know you were involved in a recent project with the Navajos. Can you tell me more about that too?
Yes, we were proud to participate in a program called Light Up Navajo. That is one that has been driven by the Navajo Tribal Utility Authority, which is in charge of all the utilities on the Navajo Nation. And they have currently, this was more, and they started this program about 6 years ago, I believe, about 13,500 homes that don't currently have electricity at all, never have had electricity.
Which blows my mind. I'm in real estate and I
absolutely.
Can't even imagine.
And it's quite impactful when you see it firsthand. And I had an opportunity to join our crews, and we sent 2 different crews down over a 2-week period to go down and help build line 2 homes. Many of these remote homes, and first line we built was a mile worth of distribution line to 1 home, but that 1 home had 3 generations living in it. And the oldest generation talked about having literally waited 40 years to have power. And you know, and I mentioned in the presentation, it's you know, it's an emotional experience to see that, and because you know, something that we've taken for granted our whole lives, and that you're changing the course of the history of that family or that household
and their future
forever, for the future. And electricity, you know, as a byproduct, is a gateway to so much more quality of life, because once you have electricity, then you can get a well pump and you can start bringing in running water, because they didn't have running water either. And once you have electricity, you can bring in a septic system and have a sewer system versus having an outhouse. This is what we saw. So it's the transition or gateway to the minimal quality, what we consider a minimal quality of life. That's something that others haven't enjoyed. And the Navajo Nation surprised us in such a pleasant way of being very patriotic. Lots of proud military service, the most by any ethnicity in the United States, in fact. And it was just it was a joy to go down and certainly a life-changing or life memory, I think, for everybody who was part of that. And we I believe, will continue to do that and help with that mission going forward.
And I'm a big believer in making an impact in our community. Everybody knows I gave 10% of my commissions back to nonprofits in town automatically. I allow my seller and buyers to pick. So I'm a big advocate of giving back. And so I love, and I want to encourage everyone to look in your Montrose Living, scan your little QR code here, and join Operation Roundup. Number 1, you'll save $5 on your bill. And secondly, you'll really make an impact. So Operation Roundup is run by a board. You apply through DMEA, I believe. And if you're in need, then the board will decide where the money goes. But you just round up your bill. It's a very small thing to do, but it makes a huge impact on our community. So I just want to encourage everybody and thank you for keeping up with that and promoting it in the community, because it's something that is really close to my heart and makes an impact. And so talking about impact, I love that you're making an impact with the Navajos, but you're making an impact within the community and you're pushing things like this out, and that makes my heart happy. So thank you for that.
And thank you for being a member of the Operation Roundup
Yes.
Board for the time that you were there, because you made a difference through that. And it's worth noting that the Operation Roundup Board is made up of community members. It's not the DMEA or Elevate
Correct.
Board of Directors. It's something that is one of our 7 cooperative principles of all electric cooperatives nationwide is community focus, and and this is one way that we can demonstrate that amongst others that we're proud of doing as well.
Yeah, for sure. And then I wanted to go back to your employee retention, because I'm focused on the community, I focus on employees and people who live in our community.
Right.
And I know that you have an amazing retention at DMEA, including people that have been there for over 30 years. Tell me more about your employee retention and what you're looking for, because I believe you have a few positions open.
We do, so thank you for asking. I mean, you know, from a leadership standpoint, if you start with the membership, there's nothing more important than having the right people and having the right team. And DMEA has been able to attract and develop and retain a fantastic team. It's clear, you don't have to be there that long to be able to assess. Not always the case. Having been, you know, leaders of other organizations, as I mentioned earlier, that's one of the things that impressed me the most coming to DMEA already. But, you know, you have to build a culture, and, you know, if there's any place to build a culture out of, the electric cooperative industry has it, right? The whole purpose and mission that we have is something that if you believe in it and gravitate towards that, I can't imagine how many other industries that you could be more fulfilled in. So we believe that just by what we do, we should be attractive to you know, potential employees or otherwise. And of course, we try to provide the compensation and benefits that really make an individual feel valued and worthwhile, because what they do in the community is valued and worthwhile, and try to match those two up. But when it comes down to our long tenured employees, and we do have a number of them, our longest tenured currently is 35 years.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. We have a number that I can count off on one and maybe get to a second hand that are in the 30-year mark. We've got others that are in the 20-year mark. If you look at as a whole, where we see the national trending going away from these kind of multi-decade, one employer employees, where you'll still find that is in the electric co-op industry, Colorado and nationwide, because I think it goes back to being rooted in what we do is meaningful. And if you can't find meaning in what we do, you're probably not going to find it in any employer. And so I think that's what ultimately drives somebody to stay.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I think you also focus, I like the focus on safety, and lights on, and affordability. So essentially safe, reliable, and affordable
Correct.
Electric. And so how do you live by that?
Well, you know, I said in the presentation earlier today, you know, CEO, president, those are fancy titles, but you know, at the end of the day, I'm a utility manager, and the most important thing I have to do and think about, and the thing that would keep me awake, if there's anything that keeps me awake at night, that's keeping our employees safe, keeping our members safe, because you know, the electricity is not forgiving in many cases, and so what we do has a very high risk factor to it. So we have to mitigate those risks at all times. So that's always number one. And any list, anything that I'm going to tell you, anything we profess in our organization, safety is going to be at the top for obvious reasons. But you know, as a utility manager, we have to keep the lights on. And for us, you know, lights have an interesting, you know, notion to them, because we say lights as, you know, a reflection of keeping the lights on, which is electricity, but fiber optic networks are based on transferring light, right?
That's true.
So when we say we keep the lights on, we think of it in both of those terms. We try to keep the lights on, the electricity and the fiber going, so that your broadband or internet is working all the time, because that's why we exist, and that's what the expectation is. And critical nature of both of those services are not lost to us. And we understand that any kind of interruption of that could have a lot of significant ramifications or otherwise. So reliability is the second part of that. So those are the two things that I concentrate on daily. On a broader scale, yes, the third one, affordability. We want to certainly, as a nonprofit, we're not profit driven. We don't have shareholders, we have members, and we want to do it so that it's affordable, and that's one of the things that differentiates us or makes us special, is that we're driven to provide the service, provide it at a fair cost, which allows us then to make the margins that we can, which are not profit margins, they're margins that we use for cash flow purposes and reinvestment into the into our system to keep the reliability up. And then over time, whatever excess we've had, also differentiator for us is that we will refund it back to you in the form of a capital credit retirement, and so that we never actually ever have taken anything more than we've needed to run that business.
That's amazing.
And we haven't raised our rates since 2019. And we announced at our annual meeting this year that we did not project raising rates into 2024. So, you know, that'll be 5 years, you know, in 2024. And I never make predictions beyond, you know, what's upcoming close, because this is a very quick changing business, but I feel optimistic that we can keep that trend going longer.
That's amazing. And talking about the annual meeting, I wanted to tell you how much I loved your photos that you posted online with the wanted, and everyone could take photos at the annual meeting.
Sure.
It is the first year that I'm like, oh, I missed the meeting. I wish I would have been there. Not that they're boring, because I really like to stay on top of what's happening. But it is long, and it's a lot of information to process, and it's a lot to stay on. And so every year I tried to make it, and this year I didn't make it, and I was like, oh man, I wanted my photo taken. So keep that up, because I think it's going to motivate a lot of people in the community to be present at the next meeting. Because I think we forget that we're members, and that we can be involved as much as we want to be involved, as much as we have time, whether it's a board position or just being present at the meeting and asking questions. I think that's crucial to be involved in how everything is evolving. And talking about involvement, let's talk about renewable energy. What's next?
So, you know, we as an industry are transitioning to a new energy economy, and certainly DMEA is part of that transition and has been for a number of years. In fact, DMEA has been really at the forefront of sourcing renewable energy with the establishment of its own hydroelectric facilities, which we take you know, energy from, and you know, seasonally, and we're in that season right now where we're generating electricity you know, off of nature through the rivers, but also has had a number of solar facilities that we own, or that we've partnered with the local area schools to have at their facilities to promote the renewable energy and take advantage of that resource, which is lower cost, not as reliable, but lower cost. But when it is in its reliable periods, when the sun shines or the water flows or the wind blows, you know, you want to certainly take that opportunity. But we are excited that next year we have, in partnership with our wholesale power supplier, Guzman Energy, we've got an 80 megawatt facility that's going to go up in Delta County. That is part of what a new trending is in this transition, which is agrivoltaic projects. Agrivoltaic, many times you've probably driven by and just seen solar arrays out in the field or wind turbines out, and sometimes you may have seen wind turbines where they were still farming around it. That would be agrivoltaic, right? Where you've taken land and been able to produce some renewable resources, but also continue its use for agricultural purposes. Well, in this case, it's going to be more ranching in terms of sheep ranching, sheep herding, whatever the proper term is. But you'll have solar arrays that are high enough off the ground that under that you could still engage in an agricultural business. And you're going to see more and more trending of that, I think, and we're certainly going to be at the forefront of that, certainly on the western slope. But we're excited that project will break ground in early 2024 and be operational in 2024 as well.
Fantastic. Talk about collaboration and working together towards solutions. I
Right.
love that idea. That's phenomenal. Well, and I don't have too much left for you. I so appreciate your time. I know you're very busy. I wanted to actually talk about Elevate, because I believe you are now you have 70% of coverage in the DMEA's, I would say, areas.
Yes.
So tell me more about Elevate. What's next for Elevate? I know that a few areas like in Olathe are really waiting and anticipating you to be there and are very excited.
Yeah.
What's the timeline to be at 100%?
So first of all, I want to lead off and just say thank you for everybody's patience. If you're not, part of the 70% so far, we're going to get to you as soon as we can. That's still in terms of years. The good part of that, the better number percentage-wise, is that we are funded to 95% of all of our membership. So we already know it's a reality and a fact that it's going to happen to at least 95%. We are working on initiatives right now that could get us up to funding to 98, 99%, and then discussions about how we get to 100. It's the original objective was to get to 100% of all of our membership, which is still our objective to do. So our team has done great in terms of being able to go and capture a lot of grant funds.
Yeah.
DMEA membership seeded the initial money to launch Elevate, and so they're getting that return on investment with interest, and will be fully paid, whatever stage that is or has been, and it's a profitable business right now, and we expect that to continue to be the case. It's an amazing story from its time, and really 6 years-ish or so that it's been going on 7 now, from its launch to where it's at today, and where it's already projected to be in its first 10 years of life cycle, is really, I think, a story to be told nationwide.
Yes, I would agree with you. I think it's a fantastic story. I got Elevate on day one, and I love it. I work from home mostly, and for years I did, 12 to 14 hours working from home, and it is so much more reliable than anything else I've had before. And it's really impacted my life that I can be working and my kids can be on their tablets and somebody else can be watching TV at the same time. I mean, think about it. A few years back, you couldn't do that. Everything was delayed, and we're getting so spoiled that, as soon as something is slower, I called Jason and I'm like, hey, what's happening? But I think sometimes we get spoiled because we have such great internet up here. And being in real estate too, it impacts our people moving here, because if they can have reliable internet and still have their high-paying jobs, they will move here.
That's
they will relocate here because of what you can provide for them. So thank you for that, because it's really brought some great personalities and some great people to the Valley who can retain their high-paying jobs and bring money to the Valley.
It will change the landscape of rural America over time. There's no doubt about that. Just exactly what you said, because now if you can do your job in a place where, like the Western Slope, where you want to live, and instead of where you need to live for your job, which many people do and have over time, this is going to be a reality at some point. Now, I will say, to your point, I've often commented, the more we're taken for granted, the more we know we've been successful. So.
Yes. Well, and also I think remind ourselves and help the Navajo Nation, and remind ourselves that all of these things that we take for granted, not everyone has.
Right.
I think that's a great reminder for us, whether it's the internet. Sometimes with my kids, if we don't have internet for 24 hours, it's like this disaster. But by the end of the day, we've done a game night, or we've learned about them, and it's just kind of like, oh, maybe we should have outages like that are planned. You should have like outage day on this day so everybody can connect.
Every parent has wished that the internet or the cell towers would go out for a short period of time. There's no doubt about that.
It's just funny though, because you are giving us the tools, which I love, is that on the app we can like disconnect devices and be like, oh, you're done. Like, it's amazing. I really love that feature that I have with Elevate, which I just go on my app and I can just take my son's computer out, or I can, hey, you haven't emptied your dishwasher sure yet. I think that's phenomenal. So, and every time I interact with one of your staff, they're so happy to be there. They're happy to help. When you have an outage, I love the way you communicate, whether it's on Facebook or on your website, to say, this is what we're doing about it. This is where we are. You're so instant with that communication. It's very helpful. So we don't have to call in. We don't have to find out what's happening. We know there's a line down in this area, and this is what we're doing about it. So I wanted to thank you for that communication, because that's crucial for us, because we don't know, right. How long it's going to be. I would say the last thing I would want to ask you is, I just put solar panels on my house, and I find this very crucial that we're part of the solution. Would you encourage people to do that? Is this something that you would like to see more of for your DMEA members?
You know, that's a great question, because I've already been asked. I've been asked that, you know, in my position a number of times. What I say is that decision is very much an individual homeowner decision. What I would encourage homeowners to do is to contact us if they have any questions, because we don't go out and do solar installations ourselves, right? That's a number of other businesses, private-owned businesses that have that business model and do this. But what I've always told, whether it's neighbors or general, you know, inquiries about that, is that you really need to understand the information that you're being provided. Is it, and if you want to validate that or otherwise, we're certainly there as a resource to do that. But be sure you understand the assumptions that are being made, because there are assumptions that are made, and that you understand the financing element of that, and you understand all the technical and mechanical elements of this too, because you are putting holes in your roof. And you're putting up some panels that could be susceptible to things like hail, and if it goes down, or as you know, in real estate, is it's going to have an impact on the resale of your house over time, things of that nature. I just say be well informed is really my answer to that. And if it makes sense to you, then that's fantastic. You know, we have an ability for interconnection, or I've often said, you know, my sister, you know, it didn't matter what the numbers are. She just wanted to drive up to her home and see solar panels, and that made her happy. And you know what? That drives some. Others, it's the cost savings on the bill. Others, it's being part of the solution or part of the renewable energy transition. So I don't have a blanket answer. Do what you think is right, but just be well informed, and we can be helpful in that.
I learned a lot through the process on how power is stored, how solar panels actually work. If you do not have a battery, where does your power go and how does it work? It was, I had a few light bulb moments. I really thought I was well informed, and as I started the process, I wasn't at all. So I see exactly where you're coming from. There is a lot to learn and a lot to explore, and making sure you have the right partner and ask the right questions too, I think. So I appreciate you extending the offer that we can call and that we can
Absolutely,
ask
and we know solar installers, and we work with solar installers. It's, like I said, it's not our business, and it's not something that we promote or demote in this case. To me, it's always been an individual homeowner decision, and you know, we have the tariffs to support that. If you decide to go along that path, then we have the path to help you in order to achieve that. So.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else that you would like the community to know?
Just that I'm extremely happy to be here. Couldn't be happier to have joined a great organization like DMEA and Elevate, and just happy to be now a former Eastern Sloper and current Western Sloper.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. And I wanted to thank Becky as well, because thank you for helping us put all this together and always being by your side. She's amazing for everything, anytime I need anything. So thank you, Becky. All right. Well, there you have it. You heard it first here. We've got some great announcement. We hope to see you on the next Real Talk with Delphine. And don't forget to give back and scan your Operation Roundup and get your $5 credit on your next bill.
Thank you.
You're so